Well, Season 2 has kicked off for Spiritforged in China with a regional. 511 players show up to compete, and we are here to recap Day 1. So, for those of you who are sleeping, well, a lot of us ended up staying up and watching a lot of it, and I tried to watch as much as I could, but we are going to bringing you an entire recap, including looking at footage from each individual round. All of that and more starting right now. So this is really interesting because we've had kind of the city stuff going on, we've had some online tournaments hitting, but all in all, we haven't necessarily had a let's get down and grind best of 3, especially in China at least. And so this is going to be a really interesting window because it's a big tournament, 511 players, like I said, and everything's on the line here with this regionals. And it's interesting because especially as we look at this allocation of deck lists, we see that there were, 35% of the field is Draven. Now, that's nothing to be surprising there. In fact, I thought it was even going to be a little bit higher. I thought it was going to be in the 40%. So to see it at 35 is a little bit of a silver lining there. But even after that, we have the Irelia, we have Kaisa at 7%, Irelia at 12%, Viktor at 5% with 28 decks, Fiora with 24 at 4%, Sivir with 17 at 3%, Master Yi at 16% at 16 decks at 3%, Ornn at 12 decks, Azir at 12, so on and so forth. The deck or the list is there for you to be able to see. One that's going to be really surprising, well, there's a couple that are kind of surprising for me, but the biggest one that is very surprising for me is the Ezreal. I really thought that we were going to be having a lot more Ezreal representation, at least here. But again, this is interesting too because it seems like Ezreal has finally taken his step up into the meta and we figured out a much more competitive build that we are really starting to explore finally. What I'm talking about is Downwell. Now, what that basically is it's going to be an 8-cost 2-rune recycle for you to be able to basically do a board wipe. Everything and its dog is removed except for runes. And that's going to be a really cool advantage for Ezreal because you are able to do that, and then you usually will have some Rashas in hand and things like that so that you can quickly rebuild your board and your opponent has to start over. This is something that is incredibly good against Draven because especially Miracle Draven because it goes so wide so fast and it's like, all right, you just have to now spend your whole turn rebuilding, and I'm going to get 2 points on that. And so that's already a really interesting aspect of this deck, but not only that, it has the insane card draw that we've seen with purple, and a lot of other utility that we just haven't necessarily seen going on in any other deck. Now, of course, there is like Prison Annie, which Gale Wins has been playing a little bit. He has a video on his YouTube about that, and I recommend checking that out. Really cool build, really awesome idea, and can just do absolutely devastating things. And that's going to be the big thing here. I really was expecting to, see Ezreal at least up at what we would be seeing maybe for the Viktor numbers. Viktor had 28 decks that were showing up of the 511, which is a great number, all things considered. And it's still like, we'll see. But I really do love to see this kind of representation. I'm still a little bit iffy on Irelia and where she can be. She seems like she is going to be a very difficult deck to pilot, especially because you're kind of like a different version of Ornn. You're the mobile Ornn, if you will. And what I mean by that is Irelia has the ability to move incredibly fast. But like Ornn, you're probably only going to have 1, maybe 2 units out at a time anyway. Now, you're going to be making those units incredibly difficult to kill, but once you do, you kind of lose that momentum. You run a ton of spells in Irelia, and so if all of a sudden you lose your main piece, you get Irelia out, and then that's your only unit in hand, and you have 7 cards in hand and only spells, that can really slow you down and take you behind and almost get you a game loss at that point. And so that's going to be tough. And I hate to be there with all of that, but, we will see. Viktor, though, is one I'm going to be curious about. Will it get top 8? I think it definitely has that potential to. It has such a really cool idea of that it is one of the few decks that has just direct kill spells. It has Coal of the Week. It has Vengeance. It even has new cards from set 2 that I'm spacing right now because I'm filming. But it has the ability, it's a 5-cost 1 recycle that just says kill a unit at a battlefield. Now, you have to kind of play around this a little bit because, especially when it says at battlefields, that can really slow you down or affect things because it's like, well, I'm paying 5 and a power to be able to kill a unit at a battlefield, but Draven's just like, all right, cool, I fight or flight. I go back to base, it doesn't have a valid target. Okay, cool. Thanks for doing that. And so that's going to be kind of the interesting dynamic there. Same with Irelia. Same with purple in general. Everyone seems to be running about the same base cards where you're running the fighter flights, even Overzealous Fan, and things like that to get things moving. Ornn and Azir, though, I gotta say, I'm really excited to see what maybe they're able to do. 12 and 12 decks alike for both of these legends, and that is going to be really fun to take a look at. Now, Ornn is a really interesting legend because, again, like Irelia, he is able to become an absolute tank and be so difficult to kill. You have the Guardian Angels, Azonia's Hourglasses, you have a ton of equipment that you can add to, and then Ornn is just like, oh, by the way, I have the ability that every gear that is out period on my side of the field, I'm just going to get +1. Okay, well, that's great. And then you add Sevajonger, imagine I say that right, and that is just going to add all of the text of that champion to that equipment. So it's like, okay, cool, now I have Deflect 4, now I get +2 for each gear that is out on the field. And, you know, and then that's not even counting all of the might that's getting added to me. And so it's like, well, I gotta really bite the bullet, and usually what that comes down to is playing like a Rebuke and having potentially 6 that you are going to have to, you know, pay in a power cost to be able to get Ornn back to hand. Otherwise, you're probably just not going to win the game. It's going to be such an uphill battle, and you got to finesse your way around. And so I absolutely love Ornn. I also really love the Sivir and Fiora. But the biggest thing with Fiora, kind of the same issue that we had with Set in Set 1, was that they don't necessarily have a whole lot of card draw. And that's going to be a big problem because with Purple, with Chaos in particular, that's all they do, you know? Because I've had so many people that have been able to play out a Chaos Seal, and then they'll have an Ezreal out, discard 1, draw 2, then they'll go on a Called Shot, they'll immediately repeat that because of the Ezreal's ability to bring optional cost down by 1 or 1 power. Awesome. And so then you get to immediately Called Shot for, you know, 1 power, essentially. Cool. So I look at 4 cards and draw 2. Then they usually have like a stack deck and even some stuff on top of that. And so there's a lot that they are able to do, and they can go through their entire deck. And then on top of that, they have things like Fizz. And so Fizz will come in and just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to just put unchecked power at the bottom of the deck, but also it's going to get played again. So I'm going to look at 4 cards and draw 2 for free or essentially tapping my Chaos Seal, you know, and it's going to be really interesting. And I'm going to be curious to see what ends up happening with this meta as we go about this, because it's like when you have such big draw disparities. When I was going against Savage on Thursday, I was playing Master Yi versus an Ezreal. And I was at about 30 to 32 cards mid-game in my deck, and he was at about 15 to 13. And it was like, well, yeah, when you have like only 13 cards left of your 40-card deck, you're going to have the answers, you know, and rightfully so. He was able to do so. Now, with that caveat, though, it was still a relatively close game. I remember, I think it was like 2 of the 3 games, we ended up going like near 7-7 on all the games. And so it can still be a really close game. But something that we got to keep in mind here on just that draw disparity. Now, with that, though, your draw that you're able to get from Chaos you're substituting all of that for a lot of cards. And so what that basically means is 3 seals, 3 called shots, 3 stacked decks, possibly 3 scrap heaps. You have a 40 card deck. You're using all of that for deck thinning. And so it's like, well, cool. I'm essentially playing maybe 22 cards in my deck that actually can answer board states and things like that. So it's like, okay, cool. If you want to take that risk, you do you. And so that's kind of the risk and reward of that. And it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this ends up going, because I'm going to be curious to see if that really does have as big of an impact on the meta, or if you're going so hard into the draw that you're just not necessarily able to get there. So we'll see. Anyway, guys, with that, though, we're going to be taking a look at a lot of gameplay. First and foremost, we're going to be going over so far of the rounds that have been announced or that have been played. We have 7 rounds so far, and it's been really interesting, and I've really loved seeing these matchups. Now, of course, we're not going to necessarily watch every single game, but we're going to be looking in at game 1 of round 1 and, you know, like game 3 of like round 3 and stuff like that. So keep that in mind. And again, everything will be time stamped down below so that you can, you know, hop to the games or the matchups that you actually want to see. I'm really sad they haven't done an Ezreal yet. Ezreal's become one of my favorite legends here, and he might even well be the one that I end up taking to Vegas. So we'll see, but it's interesting. And so with that, guys, let's go in on the rounds here. Round 1, of course, was Fiora versus Draven. Then round 2 was Fiora versus Azir. After that was Kai'Sa versus Irelia. And then Draven versus Lucian, Ornn versus Viktor, and Lee Sin versus Sivir, which was a really fun matchup. Really unique, especially that Lee Sin was even able to get a feature match. I'm glad that they went that route, because it very well could have been a Draven v Draven type thing, so glad it wasn't. And then, of course, we have in round 7, Draven versus MF. So really cool dynamics here, and it was an MF Aurora, which I know a lot of my commenters, a lot of my viewers have been a little bit worried about, like, well, are my Auroras still going to be valid in this Spiritforged meta, especially with how expensive they were for the longest time. They finally come down in price. Well, if it ends up doing good in this tournament, you can see that shooting right back up probably. Anyway, but we don't know yet. We're still on day 1. So anyway, with that, though, it's going to be fun to see. So without any further ado, let's get some gameplay going as we hop into round number 1, Fiora versus Draven. Now, I don't know. I don't know if I just need to shrink myself down, be the little man here. There we go. We'll try that. If I'm in the way too much, I'll move. But this is going to be an interesting matchup, and they're already going to be into game number 1. Now, again, they're 0-0 so far. This is a random matchup, and this is kind of the hardest part about the beginning of this tournament is, you know, you don't necessarily know what you're getting in the first couple of rounds of a stream. But still, I really was intrigued here to see how this starts. For those of you who are still interested on watching day 2, there's multiple streamers, me included, that do restreams of this, and they try to go all night. Turn 'em Sideways is one of them. Runes and Rift. And I've seen so many others as well that are finding co-streams, luckily. And if you just want to watch it live, it's on like Blibbity or whatever, or Billily, you know, imagine I say that right again. But you're able to watch all of that on there live, and you can find the links that way. So right now we're in the process of being in a battle, and it's going to be difficult because, again, Draven has a lot more of draw power than what you expect from Fiora, and that's going to be one of the hardest parts. And one of the biggest strengths that helps out Fiora here is going to be the fact that you have a counter spell in orange. Not only that, that's her signature spell, and that is what actually allows her to add might due to the energy cost. And it looks like, yeah, he has that in hand. Gosh, that looks so good. I can't wait to hold Spiritforge in my hand because, man, it's, I mean, they do so good on the foiling and things like that. So absolutely love that. But right now it's 3-3. But again, you have a double overzealous fan in the battlefield that you need to deal with. And there isn't necessarily a lot of removal that Fiora has. Spell removal is what I mean in particular. And so you have to move in, and then you immediately get pushed out, and boom, that's a one combat. You know, and that's going to be the dilemma here. How do I get around two overzealous fans? And then not only that, if I do even happen to take over this battlefield, great, good on me. But at the same time, I then have a Darius that is going to be back in base that I have to also worry about. And so, again, this is going to be just a really difficult matchup for all of these competitors here. Going into Draven, because again, he can create such a wall. And that's even one of the scariest parts here about Draven. An action. Now, he doesn't, I think, have... Oh, they are going to weapon master him over. Okay, cool. That's really awesome. I'm like, there's nothing to steal on the other side. But, I mean, that's also a great feeling when you steal the signature spell of Draven, which is an equipment. Akshan can immediately take that, equip it for free, and gets +3. That is such a powerful ability right there. And so, that's the hardest part, though. It's like, what do you do in this kind of matchup? And it's like, yeah, looks like he is just going to be attacking right in. 3 runes up for the Draven player, which is going to be difficult to have to deal with. A lot of answers there. I mean, heck, even if you do a stack deck and then try to find a 2-cost response, I mean, there's fighter flights and even other units that you could utilize there. But also, even just overzealous fan, you activate the ability, and you're pretty much good to go. So right there, the Draven ability is going to be activated. It's going to be at 6, and then we are going to have the ability activated and the hidden card, and that's going to be adding +2 to the overzealous fan. Now, of course, there is still another overzealous fan under the pit rookie there, which can still send 1 unit back when defending. So again, in response to Draven's trigger, you can activate the hidden ability because it can be at reaction speed. So Draven is currently at 6. Even if he does decide to push someone away, this could be really interesting. But even still, Fiora having 2 runes at the ready is something to definitely keep in mind here. And this is going to be a big showdown. This is going to be... I mean, again, you do not want to give Draven too many cards, but you need to deal with the threats that are present. And so you also have the Lucian that is going to be coming in for a decent amount here. But yeah, it looks like that is just going to be a trade for damage, a 1 combat. Draven's ability is going to be activating. And a gold is going to be created because of the champion unit as well. So, again, already a ton of utility there. And that's going to be one of the biggest things. Draven has such a high power cost here. And so, trying then to create as much gold as possible, win as many combats to get cards and all that, is going to be absolutely vital. But now here we go with the Akshan. But again, that's going to be scary with Set and Akshan going in. That's a lot of might, especially with one of them being equipped, but still 3 cards up, and he has just drawn a card. So I'm going to be curious to see how they are going to respond. But yeah, it looks like an overzealous fan is going to be sacked, pushing the Set back. Now, of course, it still does have the +4. And so it looks like it's going to be 6-8, if I remember right, or if I'm seeing right. I don't quite remember or saw what the battlefield equipment is here. And it very well could just be a trade in this case. Okay, yeah, it's just a Doran's Blade. Awesome. So that is going to be a trade. That is still a great, exchange there. But again, there's going to be 2 more units in base, at least at this point, for Draven. And that's going to be very difficult to then try to get some responses to. Now, it is nice that you do have the counter spell, but you got to time that so incredibly well. If you don't, you're just going to be in trouble. And so with that pass, it is going to be a ready up for Draven, 2 runes at the ready, untap, and draw. Not that it needs more draw, but here we go. And again, even with the Darius, for example, you could just move in, get a battlefield, play 2 cards, and pull him back out for him to fight another day. And that could be something very versatile because, especially, again, there is not a lot of removal here. So starting with a stacked deck is going to be a good step. Looking at 3, there's the signature spell itself, but not one that he picks. I wish we saw what he picked. Such a fast grab. Oh, a fight or flight. Okay, cool. I'm like, it almost looked like a Nocturne with the quick glance. And so that's one of my favorite games to play when we watch regionals. It's, what's that card? You know, it's a fun game show where we get a very obscure angle of someone's hand and we have to guess what they have in hand. So I'll take Draven's hand for 200, Bob. Okay, anyway, but with that, it's going to be fun to see, though, what he ends up doing. Again, that's going to be 1 card so far played. Now, it could be a hidden blade. That's maybe something that he's trying to play around here because, again, if he can get rid of the Darius, that would be a big win there. And so going to be curious to see what kind of responses we get here. And so Draven is going to commit to the battlefield. That is going to be a given point with no opposition. It's like, yeah, why give Draven more cards at this point? And already with that, the regular Draven deck, not Miracle Draven, has the ability to just have a lot of aggressive units coming out. And so even if you did take out the Draven, for example, or the Darius, sorry, even if you did take out the Darius, it would still be a very difficult scenario for you to figure out how to continue to get over everything. And then with a Vex coming in, game 1, that is going to be a mained card. And a lot of people in Draven have been doing that a lot more lately. So really interesting to see. Love the idea. And I'm going to be curious to see what else is going to be happening as we continue in this game 1 of round number 1. Now, the reason why Vex is so good is because friendly spells cost 1 and 1 power less to a minimum of 1, and enemy spells cost 1 and 1 power more. So if you do have any responses while in a battle with Vex being included, whoo, good luck. Really, really powerful against Irelia decks, against green decks that do rely on a lot of the buffs, meaning that you do normally have to activate a lot of them before moving into a battlefield. So things to keep in mind. And so far though, I've really loved this exchange. I've loved this battle. And I'm going to be curious to see what else maybe the Fiora, but also the Draven has in store in his deck. That's going to be very telling here. And again, though, there's 1 face down hidden card in a battlefield on Draven and 2 cards at the ready. So you really got to be worried that there's definitely a fight or flight. There could also even be a switcheroo. That's one of the kind of sneaky cards of this deck in particular. And so is going to be going into the other battlefield with set. That is going to be multiple equipped cards added to him. Should be around 8 still. And here's the biggest thing, though. Those 2 cards could also even be a bluff on the Draven side that are at the ready. He might not have a response. And so, but at the same time, with it being 3 to 5, you cannot allow the Draven to go to 7. And so you have to attack at this point. And it looks like 2 cards are going to be played. One's going to be recycled. And, it very well might be the signature spell that could be coming in. There is 1 and 1 recycled. Oh, it's a Ride the Wind. There we go. And that is going to be defied, adding the 2 might to the probably Set. Oh, but looks like actually going to be adding it to the Fiora. So a really interesting idea. The Draven cannot move, and now he is tapped out. This was a great time to bring out the Fiora signature spell, and that could be an absolute difference maker. And so, yeah, looks like Draven is gonna be no more. And that is going to be also a buff given to Set, so he's going to be even bigger at this point. That could be difficult. But you still have to worry about that fight or flight that is face down. Again, though, even if it's a switcheroo. Again, some people run one in their deck. Some people side it depending on matchups, which is definitely a smart move to make. Looks like a Doran's Blade is going to be coming out too. That is going to continue to help make, or it already has been mighty, so the legend ability of Fiora has been utilized as the attack is going in. That is a +4 for a total of 7 at this point, but not going to matter with a fight or flight. That is going to be a 1 combat for Draven in this case, so that is going to be another card draw. And that's going to be if he... Okay, looks like they are going to continue to talk about it. Judge rewound a couple of things just in case then. Interesting. Okay, and then, yeah, looks like going to be adding another signature spell. So is going to be able to hold down both battlefields. That's going to be +4 at that point, and the Poro is donezo. That is about as easy to kill a Poro as you can get. And again, you're seeing the power of that signature spell, but there's only one more. And the odds of him even having that in his hand is pretty slim. So there's some options there. And even on top of that, only 4 runes at the ready for Fiora. No hidden cards. The fields are wide open, so we'll see what battlefields are able to be done here. But I'm absolutely loving that turn that the Fiora was able to do. I mean, was able to utilize and answer a lot of the calls that Draven was making and was able to severely slow him down and now has a chance of even going maybe up 6-6 at this point. And so, really fun play there. Again, though, if you lose your Fiora, that ability to accelerate mighty units is just such a powerful card, and that champion makes a big difference in this deck. And when it does get taken out, it gets scary, especially as a accelerated Kai'Sa is coming in. And with that, Kai'Sa going in 6-5. I don't think there is going to be any response at this point. Checking the hand real quick for the Fiora player. And unfortunately, the Fiora is no more. That is going to be a 1 combat, a scored point, and 2 card drawn. 1 for the Kai'Sa and 1 for the Draven legend ability. Going to 6 points at this point. Now, with Vex, the attack in is going to be a little bit difficult of a one. You do have the signature spell still in Draven's hand, so that is going to be one to consider here. But still, this is going to be an odd situation. How do you get over what Set could potentially do? You only have a couple of runes left. You have 3 runes left at the ready, so to then try to figure out what to do, how to utilize this kind of attack could be a little bit difficult. And looks like just going to be hiding a card face down in this case. That is a 6 might Kai'Sa there with a face down card. Could be going up to 7, but currently it is 6-6. And the Fiora is going to have 6 runes to work with. And so, again, this is going to be a big turn. Another chance to try to get into this, but you need to accelerate somehow a unit out. And that's the thing. I don't think there necessarily is a way to accelerate out a unit. Not that I saw in the hand, at least. And that's going to be scary, too, because you have a lot of might in the base for the Draven player, which can make a big difference. Look like Set is going to be coming in. He has a buff that is going to be utilized. And then the Doran's Blade is going to, I think, be... Oh, no, not equipped. But instead, he did channel the rune using the Fiora. And that's one of the coolest legend abilities, too, because when Set enters the battlefield, he is currently at 4 might and then has an ability where he can go up to 5. And so, really fun to be able to have that. But looks like also is going to be playing a card face down in a battlefield that is probably going to be a hidden blade at this point. But still, trying to take down a battlefield with a hidden card when going against Draven is going to be difficult. And even on top of that, he very well could just say, I'm putting all of my units in this battlefield. Can you take it? That could be a very viable option here, especially adding 9 additional might to the 6 might Kaisa with the equipped. I mean, that is going to be such a tough situation, but definitely something that Fiora could potentially do. I'm going to be curious to see if that is going to be possible to find that answer. But right now, it's not necessarily looking good, but still going to be moving back to base. Getting that little extra. Now, of course, the Kaisa is going to still be readied up, and everything is going to be going in. Now, there is only 1 card left at the ready. This could be the 8th point here to put the... to give them the game. It all comes down to this. And again, everything's going to cost, 1 more potentially. And so I think that Vex was one of the things that just really helped set the game. It cost 1 and 1 more. And so still going to be able, and there is the signature spell from Draven, and that is going to be game number 1 of round 1. Now, again, that was a really fun matchup, and I love that we were able to see what specifically that was able to do. I mean, it was such a cool chance to get things moving, and Fiora still had a really good chance, but, I mean, that was going to be the hardest thing. How do you go about, then, attacking and taking care of things when Draven just has answer after answer after answer? The card draw of the legend ability is already powerful enough, but now... it's going to be fun to see. I love Fiora as a deck, but it seems like her matchup into Draven is going to be such an uphill battle. But anyway, with that, guys, now we are going to go into round number 3, Kaisa versus Irelia. And this is going to be a really fun matchup. Again, Irelia has the ability to set up the board and then just run around like crazy. And already with 2 Guardian Angels, which is basically Azonia's Hourglass as equipment, is going to be very powerful to be able to do so. And I really like the idea behind having so much insurance, as you'll hear me say in a lot of videos, because it's like, cool, well, even if you are able to kill my unit, it's not going anywhere. You just took care of an equipment instead. And it's like, gosh, that really sucks. And this is interesting, too, because even with something like a Void Seeker from the Kaisa side, is maybe not one that we see too often. I know, for example, there was King Louis, if you guys know of him on Twitch. He plays a lot and very competitive, very skilled player. Known him for about a year now. And he played a really interesting version of Kaisa that did also include the Void Seeker that was able to take it against Draven pretty well, especially when he was going against Savage. So if you want to see that, Savage has his video on YouTube of the live stream itself, which is really fun to see. And we'll see how it goes. But again, currently it is 3-1. The Kaisa is able to start with aggression, but you look at the hand of Irelia. There's a lot of versatility there, especially with Audacious Draven. Now, Irelia is going to be coming in. The scariest part, though, is you do not want to sacrifice too many... I love that animation. Sorry, guys. You do not want to sacrifice too many runes here with the Irelia legend ability. What that specifically is when you target a unit, you can tap Aurelia's legend and recycle a rune to be able to ready that legend. And so by equipping this Guardian Angel, you can then activate the legend ability. Irelia as a champion, because she was targeted and because she was readied, now gets +2, which is awesome. And then is able to move into somewhere. But again, then after you conquer, you can pay 1 to ready it, and then if you're able to target her again, then you can move in to a different one. And so a lot of really fun ways to go about this, and is going to be moving into the Sunken Temple. Now, I love the Sunken Temple because if a unit is mighty, when you conquer, you can pay 1 to be able to draw a card. So really great options. You've seen some Fioras run that, Lucians, and things like that, because a lot of times they maybe struggle on card draw. And this is interesting, though, because this is the Irelia option here. And then here comes Ride the Wind after the Conquer. That is also going to be a ready up and a selection. So getting +4, that is going to be at 9. Right? I don't know if they're counting the... Okay, so it could be at 8 if they're counting the equipment +1 as well. And so still a lot of options here. That Poro and Void Gate is going to be incredibly scary. But looks like we are going to... Oh! Removing the equipment here. Interesting. And so that is such a powerful card because you can target a unit. Now, you do have to pay the deflect cost. Don't forget about that because... Or no, it targets the gear. I think it targets the gear, not the user. Let me look it up. Holy crap. Let me see. I think it's hook shot or hook. Let's see. Sorry, I'm going to be looking this up real quick. We'll do it live. Okay. And it's a red card. Yep. Angled shot. I was so close. Reaction speed. Choose a unit and an equipment with the same controller. Yep. So it does target, so you would have to pay the equip cost, but at least you get a card draw off of that. So really good ability there. That is going to be minusing 1 might in that case, but it looks like, yeah. Oh, and then looks like also additional damage and a Stupefy coming in. That is a lot to pay for deflect, but again, the biggest thing that we talked about is if Irelia can have her units be taken out, it can sometimes be very difficult to then try to deal with things. But look at all those runes that are gone from Kai'Sa. That is a risk that could actually cost you the game if you're not careful. Yes, Irelia still has 4 runes. You're going to be going up to 4 yourself. So that kind of helps committing so hard to this much of a game impact. And even then, that's still a trade. But, I mean, he's at least going to get a point going up 4-2 with 4 runes. So, again, not necessarily the worst response. You were able to take care of a lot of things, get some good card draw. Now you're going to get some gold. That's going to help save your runes on top of that. Unless he missed that trigger. Because on Conquer, with that Poro, you are able to make a gold. It looks like that very well could have been a missed trigger. Oh, man, and that is something that you really do not want to miss because gold can keep your runes out so much longer. That's scary. That is scary. And so, yeah, asking him to spread out his runes. Guys, that is one of the best things that you can do for yourself as a player. As someone even just in this hobby, please just spread out your runes. Don't stack them up. It's okay if you, like, you know, in the moment when you're tapping them and moving them around, if you stack them up, cool, fine. But after you're done with your playing of cards and the cost, just spread them out, you know? But here we go, Draven. And it's going to be interesting because, again, can recycle a rune to equip, then recycle a rune to use the legend ability to ready him when chosen. And, I mean, very well might be the time to do so. Again, he already has sacrificed a lot of runes. Looks like very well might be doing that. And, I mean, she, again, is going to be taking a very big risk here. But Draven Audacious is a very good card when used at the right time. Now, why do I say that? Well, Audacious specifically says, one, it has deflect, And also, the first time I win a combat each turn, you score 1 point. And then when I die in combat, choose an opponent, they score 1 point. So already, that's a little scary there, but having the Guardian Angel on it is going to be a little bit of insurance. And this very well could be the thing to tie up the game here. Now, the interesting part, too, is you would almost need to, like, run Kai'Sa in, buffer up or weaken Draven in some way, shape, or form, and then, figure out how to kill him on the battlefield here. So, again, this is going to be an interesting thing, but the Kai'Sa is going to be moving over to the Sunken Temple. The Conqueror is going to allow Kai'Sa's ability to be activated. But still, the Draven Audacious is going to be an interesting outcome here because, again, if you can go over to the other battlefield, that alone can be a very big difference because, again, that could be another 2 points. So 3 points in total on a round is going to be a big difference maker here and one that could really start to shift the tide into Irelia's favor. That's also kind of the same thing with Trinity Force in orange. Oh, and here we go with a 3 might unit. Now it says that when it comes out, it is able to create a gold. The opponent gets a chance to be able to make a gold. And if they say yes, cool. Well, then you get another gold made. So, of course, everything will come in exerted. So that's going to be a gold that will be at the ready for this next turn for Roxy. So it might be tempting to actually take here. And it looks like she will say yes to that. And so I'm going to be really curious to see how the rest of this is going to continue to unravel as we go into this match. It is such a close game and a hitting card coming down. Now, again, that is going to be a point scored going up to 5, just like that. Tied game. 2 runes are going to be at the ready. So 5 runes in total. 2 purple is going to be a great response there too. Oh, and the signature spell, which is such a powerful one too. Minusing 1 plus... or minusing 2 and of 1 unit and plus 2ing of another. And so you could really hurt the Kai'Sa there and add even 2 more to the Draven Audacious. And moving him back to base and then allowing him to move over would be really good. But again, you got to be worried about the 3 runes open. We already have seen a Void Seeker. We've already seen the Hextech Ray. But again, the biggest thing is Draven Audacious has the Deflect. And so to be able to commit another big turn like that is going to be such a difficult thing to try to do here. And is it worth doing so? That's going to be the big question. And so, oh, there's the Tide Turner. So that's going to be a good response there, an immediate switcheroo there to be able to have Draven Audacious still at the ready. That's one of the more unique interactions because you sometimes think of when they move, when they flip-flop, or whatever it might be, that is going to be, almost the difficult part here. And so, again, here we go. Looks like Draven is going to be moving in. That's going to be +2 added with the equipment. Both Guardian Angels are equipped to Draven Audacious. And then that is going to be +3 damage and a gold created here, unless it is defied. Now, still 3 damage, of course, is going to be a lot. A Flash in the Irelia deck is a really interesting option here, too. I really like that choice. But still, this is going to be probably one of the hardest decisions. You need to figure out, am I able to do this? And again, another deflect cost on the Kai'Sa player. At this point, I would say it is going to be so difficult to make Time Warp a viable option here. And I mainly say that due to the fact that it is such a difficult card to try to play. But it looks like -2 to Kai'Sa, +2 to Draven Audacious. But still, 3 damage is going to be on. And again, if it was the Irelia, that would be even 1 more added on top of that, which is why it's going to be such a good card. I love that chain animation too. So now you get to see what order everything is in, and the -2 on Kai'Sa, the +2 on Draven. This is great. I've always really appreciated the graphic work of the China regionals. They always look so good. I love the animations. I love the information that they give you. because that is such a big difference maker to even know just where the chain is, how it's going to resolve. But it looks like Draven Audacious even just won the battle and is still living to tell the tale. But still, 3 runes at the ready. But it doesn't look like there is going to be any spell removal. Again, that would be another card that would need to be recycled here. And that's going to be 7 to 5 with both battlefields. This could very well be it for Kai'Sa, and rightfully so. Deflect is an absolute killer there. And that is going to be the game as Rory takes game number 1 versus Kai'Sa. Now, that was really fun. I absolutely love those kinds of matchups. And again, this is one of the biggest questions that we are asking as competitors now is, well, what is Draven now able to do here? Or not Draven, sorry. What is Kai'Sa able to do in this meta? And you know, rightfully so, that is a very good question to be considering. Is the removal enough, or are we going to be facing a lot more of deflect or hard bargains or things like that are going to just make it so difficult to try to utilize all of that? Yes, we had the errata on reflexive triggers and whatnot. That's fine. Not a big deal. But even still, it's going to be really interesting to see how the rest of this is going to continue to play out, because Kai'Sa has definitely taken a step back, and it's because of how powerful the deflects are, how powerful the and all the defies. For example, you have defy in green, orange, purple even. And so it's like, if I'm not dealing with deflect, I'm dealing with stopping my spells anyway. And it's like, well, what do I do here? But anyway, guys, we are going to be going into the next round. That is going to be round number 5, Ornn versus Viktor. All right, guys, so yeah, this is going to be a fun one. Looks like things are just getting started in game 1. Now, both of these competitors, this is round number 4. And I believe they are both 3 and a tie. Not a loss, a tie. So, again, this is going to be a big one. Ties are very valuable, too. Not necessarily the worst to get. I mean, if you're going to either get a loss or a tie, it's better to get a tie. And this is also with the new end of game. So, I believe, yeah, you get 60 minutes on the clock. And then after that, when the clock expires, you get 3 turns. You have to win by 2. At that point. If you don't, it ends in a tie. If you're only up by 1 point, doesn't matter. It's a tie. And so if I'm playing and the clock runs out, I'm turn 0, then it goes 1, 2, 3, boom. After that, whatever the score is what the score is, and that is it. So it's going to be interesting to see how that impacts the gameplay, but it could be a really good step in the right direction. And again, nothing is set in stone. They're listening to the game, they're listening to the community, and figuring out what best gets things moving. And so I'm going to be curious to see what is going to be happening. But already we have a gear that is coming out that's going to be drawing a card. Then also you can tap 1 and recycle a green to be able to destroy it to draw another card. Very versatile card. And then looks like the defensive trigger is going to be revealing a spell that is going to add to hand. And you know that a hidden blade is there. Now again, long time ago, a couple of weeks ago, that seems like a long time ago, I made a tier list. I said Viktor was probably the 5th most powerful deck of set 2. I still would stand by that. I would even maybe move him up a spot. The direct removal and the consistency is incredibly powerful. And so we'll see what the Viktor is able to do against a very formidable foe, because that Ornn is going to be able to get things moving, get a lot of equipment added on, and even just the deflect is going to be really good too. And so already we're seeing a -1 going on to the clockwork, and then we're going to be destroying our unit, essentially. Oh, destroying the enemy unit instead. Yeah, even better, of course, yeah. To create 1 gold. If he would have destroyed his own unit, then he would have been able to create 2 gold. Still, though, that's going to be a good option there. You're having the board rider, whatever his name is, immediately come in at the ready because he has 2 gear out. That's going to be a hidden blade that is not going to be played. Yeah, and that's going to be a point on the board for both of these competitors. And here's the biggest thing, too. It's like Viktor really just needs to be at around 6 runes. If he is able to, great. Then he already has a lot of answers that he's going to be able to utilize here. And so, yeah, it looks like drop border. So when you play me, if you control 2 or more gear, it comes in ready. So that is 4 that is able to swing right in. And so we'll see how this is able to go. But Viktor can definitely move in. But again, it's like, how are you going to be dealing with the Ornn in particular? Especially if there's Guardian Angels or Zhonya's Hourglasses. You're going to need to do your best to try to remove it by any means necessary. And this is probably one of the harder matchups for Viktor. But luckily, Ornn isn't necessarily even too much of an option there, really. And so, yeah, it looks like 3 damage is going to be added to the border. That is also going to be creating a gold. And then, yep, a spell was not revealed. It was a gear instead. And so it looks like that very well is going to be a trade. Both, the Ornn is tapped out in this case. And is going to be creating another unit and a pass with 2 runes at the ready. So again, still has a hidden blade in hand. We haven't seen a hand shot of either of these competitors, so we don't quite know. Ooh, not so fast in hand is going to be really good here. And again, going to be tapping to immediately sack and draw. Get some more options here. Could even play the Ornn this turn. Wouldn't be the worst thing, but looks like is going to continue to build up the board a little bit more. Got some time, too. There's not like a whole lot here that is going to be in the way, essentially. You know, maybe 1 point a turn kind of thing so far. Very slow start here for the Viktor player, but has had to deal with some interesting plays, some interesting units out onto the board, and has been able to do so. So now can really take this turn to get another point, to try to maybe even get a second point, and, by holding at least on the following turn, while also being able to build up the field, his base, essentially. And so I'm going to be really interested to see how this might be utilized. But this is going to be a big deal. So it looks like, yeah, just like that, we have a unit coming down that is going to be destroying a 1 cost or less gear in this case. And so immediately taking out the seal to be able to create a gold, that is going to be such a powerful thing, especially with seals becoming a lot more prevalent. When Spiritforged first came out, or at least fully announced is what I more in particular mean, it didn't necessarily have a whole ton of answers. And there's an answer right there, though. Boom, bada, bang. There's the card. It comes in ready because there are 2 units out on the battlefield. So that is going to be another one that is going to be taken as we go up 3-1 at this point. And so, again, a great response there. And especially if you can slow down the power costs here of the Ornn, that can really make a difference. And so, again, I'm going to be curious to see what else is going to be decided here. What else they're going to be trying to do. Again, a hidden card, you're maybe going to anticipate that that's Hidden Blade, but it really could be pretty much anything at this point. But more often than not, you're just like, it's Hidden Blade. You always assume. That sometimes can be your undoing, though, because if it's like the Face Breaker, and you stun the unit, and you only attack him with 1, oops. And that's one of the biggest surprises, too, is Viktor can have that ability to be able to surprise and suppress like that. Bucked up. The energy drink of choice. Anyway, here comes a Guardian Angel. Again, you're seeing the Ornn continually build up battlefields, and now finally, here the Ornn comes. He has been summoned, and there are 3 gear now, so that is going to be a +3 right there. Then with the equipment added, that's going to be essentially a 4. Then you're going to essentially double it on top of that. Holy crap. That be a big boy. And again, with that now, it has deflect 4. That's a lot, because everything just got doubled with the second equipment added. So all of that stuff that is on the card, well, it just got added to the equipment that is attached to him too. So such a good ability there. And so, yeah, it looks like we are going to be doing a -1 with Stupefied to be able to then go in and draw a card. Just getting some more answers potentially, especially for 1. I'm okay paying 1 for a card. That's not a bad cost at all. Especially when you just need answers, and especially when Ornn is tapped out. And so there's not going to be necessarily much for him to do. So to have a Sabotage coming in is going to be a big deal. And this is a game 1, so that means that he's main decking the Sabotage. And so the Guardian Angel is actually going to be picked over the Savisjorg. Slavisjong. However you say it. I read it. I haven't really heard it said correctly out loud, so I don't know. Oh, yeah, man. That's awesome. But anyway, so again, this is definitely a big turn. Is going to be doing the Hidden Blade on the Viktor unit to draw 2 cards. Again, this is a free turn, so you don't have to worry about anything necessarily being defied. You did see an Imperial Decree. That's a great answer there. And then pulling the unit back just in case, just saying, hey, I respect what you're probably throwing at me. But also that's maybe even a little bit telling of I might not necessarily have a whole lot in hand. So that's going to be the big thing, though, is Imperial Decree gets around so much. It can't be defied. It can't be not so fast. It has to essentially be wind-walled. It can be hard bargained, but that's not necessarily in this deck because, of course, it's green-blue. But still, that's an option for those of you who know. You know, outside of when you're going against purple, that's something you're considering there. And it basically just changes the rule of the game. So you're able to get around the deflect cost of Ornn, and then just send a 1 might unit in, and Ornn will die. And so, again, this is going to be a big turn, but still, even with 6 out, that's going to be a 6 cost to be able to draw 4 cards. Still going to be having 5 additional. Now, of course, there is going to be a recycle to be able to play this card. I love that this card is also seeing play. The ability to draw 4 for 6 is a very powerful one. And then defy. There is a wind wall in hand, though. The Imperial Decree could very well be wind walled. There's still 5 runes up. Now, of course, the ability is, or the battlefield is going to be activated. Another spell is added. That's even better because it's the Imperial Decree with the Bellows Breath, one of the best removals and something that they are potentially going to be anticipating here. So is going to be going for that. Now, there is the wind wall in hand. And that is going to be the only answer, but it is one that he has. So, again, a huge shutdown, and especially only needing to now recycle 1 rune because of the seal. That is Windwalled, and now no more. So the Ornn, at least it's only so far at 8, if math is doing right. And so, yeah, that's a good option there. And with that, that's a pass. So he left all of those runes up. And here's the thing, too. It's like if he didn't play the Imperial Decree at that time, I still feel like the Ornn would have left enough runes up for the wind wall. It's just something that you are anticipating here. I also am interested as to why they have the retreat. It definitely could very well be for the ramp in this case. And so, yeah, we'll see what this is able to do then. But again, still, the Viktor is doing a lot of work. Going to be able to get an additional point to this turn, going up 6-2. And this is because the Ornn has just taken a little bit too long on trying to develop the board. Now, yes, he did have the border and things to be able to attack in, but those were immediately dealt with, unfortunately. And so, not a whole lot that you can really do at this point. And a lot is now getting targeted here. Ooh, still thinking, never mind. And so, yeah, here we go. And looks like the token is going to be moving into the Sigil of the Storm. That is going to need to be a rune recycled at that point for the Conquer, if I recall. Yeah, I think that's the one. The hard part is the artwork always looks so similar to Obelisk that it can be very just quick glances or whatnot. You're like, oh yeah, it's a channel a rune at the beginning. No, this one's the recycle a rune in this case. That's the hard part, is they made some of the color coordination and even like the landscape look the exact same. And so sometimes that is a little annoying. I get that if we had like 4 or 5 sets out, but we're on set 1 and they had 2 that looked very similar. Ooh, gonna be returning to... Oh, for the 1,000 Tail Watcher, that is gonna be -3 to the Ornn. Now, there still is 2 up. So, I mean, you can even anticipate maybe a Discipline, maybe an Unguard. Both would be crazy. That'd be adding 4 on top of that. But if some way, somehow, you can take this battlefield, you are in a very powerful position. And is this the time where you risk throwing everything into the battlefield? There's not necessarily anything that can push them back out, but there are things that can be added to his might. I mean, heck, I would even be a little bit worried about Frigid Touch. I would even be a little bit worried about Smokescreen. Even though those aren't necessarily cards that are normally seen in Ornn, especially in regionals, you might be trying that little bit of cheekiness, especially when holding your battlefields are going to be so important. And there's another wind wall in hand. And also, here we go. So that is going to be activating and moving the Ornn back to base. So it is going to live to fight another day. And so going up to 7. Now, again, if there is a Hidden Blade in hand, you can hide it. But again, that very well could be Windwalled or Defied. We saw, 2 Defies in hand? And so while he is still in a good position as the Viktor player, this is tough. And both battlefields are going to need to, though, be taken by the Ornn. And another Imperial Decree, knowing full well what's in store. I mean, and that's one of the nicest things. At least Ravenbloom Conservatory revealed the wind wall. Gosh, I'm tired. Because that's a big thing, too. Now, Emperor's Divide is the card that was played that was able to pull the Ornn back. It specifically says that you can play it hidden and you just move that unit back to base, essentially. Which can be a very big difference maker. That little extra thing to save you. Now, of course, if that gets defied, that can really backfire here. And now I'm wondering if he's anticipating just trying to get rid of the wind wall with the hidden card. But if he does decide to target the Ornn in this case, that's going to be dangerous because that is going to be deflect 4. And so there we go with the unit being destroyed. Card is going to need to be recycled on the Ornn side for the Conquer. And there we go with one of Ornn's signature spells there with half an animation. Now, this again is such a good card. I love that. It's kind of interesting, but a little bit annoying. I get why they did it, but all of these abilities are so powerful for Ornn's signature spell. It specifically says for this one that your units here have ganking, and when you play this, ready your units. And so, I mean, that is a high cost, 4 and 2, but it still has 1 attach, and that is a lot added as it now moves in to Ravenbloom Conservatory, where we have a Thousand Tail Watcher and a Zinzao waiting to be taken down. And so, yeah, looks like was not a spell card from the defending with the Ravenbloom Conservatory. Still has, though, a lot of runes at the ready. 5 runes at the ready still, or 6 runes at the ready for Ornn. That's a lot. And going to be really curious to see. There goes the Ravenbloom targeting the Zinzao. It can be defied at this point. And again, this is going to be the safe turn, allowing you to live to fight another day. And so, and then recalling the Thousand Tail Watcher. That is going to be powerful. Could replay, and if you do, though, that is going to be potentially a 7-7. And so we'll see what ends up happening here. It's going to be a tough situation all the same. But again, you know what's coming. And so getting some clarification from the judge here. So we'll see then what we are able to do here. The Victor does have an uphill battle. Hidden card on the orange side. But again, you have the ability to... I mean, this is tough. You know there is... I mean, a Call of the Week would feel so nice right now because you could cheat out the Wind Wall and then still potentially... What? I think he... No, he wouldn't have enough. He would still have enough for the Imperial Decree afterwards, but he doesn't have the units. But still, the Ornn would be dead at that point. Nope, there's still the hidden card, though. Yeah, this is tough. 7 runes. And it's like, Hidden Blade? Maybe. This could be the climb back to victory for the Ornn. And so, there we go with a unit being made. So, a little bit... And so we'll see what is able to be played here. But again, this is going to be difficult to try to figure your way around the final 2 points, especially with Ornn, that now has ganking. There we go with the Call of the Week. That is going to be immediately defied. Not Windwalled. Still has enough for the Windwall that you know is in hand. Woohoo. Gosh, this is going to be... And you basically just have to play your deck through your opponent's answers. And so it's like, well, I don't want to spend more. And again, you're checking through things. 1 Imperial Decree, 2 or 1 Hidden Blade. So things to consider here. And luckily, Victor also has pretty much a very carbon copy kind of deck. There's very few times that things kind of do a little bit different. And I mean, this is also the yellow Viktor. We've been seeing the blue Viktor, surprisingly, getting a little bit more play lately than yellow Viktor, which is really interesting. And so again, yeah, you're able to take notes, you're able to put things down on paper and figure things out. So rightfully so, if you can, you might as well. So love to see that. So, oh, and another Guardian Angel. That very well could have been the thing to seal the game. You're going to be seeing, essentially just a bounce back and forth by the Ornn. And it's because he's been able to have the defy spells, the things that just shut down Viktor here. And Viktor very well is a Draven killer. And again, like what I said at the beginning of this match, is that it can be a very difficult matchup because Ornn is so hard to kill, which is what Viktor specializes in, but you need to have 2-3 options on how to kill him, and then even hope that your opponent doesn't have the defies and wind walls and all that we've already seen. And so it's like, ugh, here we go. But I mean, again, here we go at 6. He can pass. He has 3 runes at the ready. And if he... Oh, and another hitting card with 3 runes at the ready. So, again, this could very well be the thing that shut down the Viktor deck. I mean, absolutely crazy that this was what was able to happen. I mean, we saw the point differential. This is almost like when Aurora first got revealed at the 3rd regionals in China. There were so many times that the opponent was at like 7 or 8 points due to Aspirant's Climb, and when you finally got your Aurora starting to roll, your opponent just would steamroll you. And so they would just keep climbing and climbing and climbing until you lost. And that's pretty much what's happening here. And so, yeah, I mean, this is going to be tough. I mean, being this close to greatness. No, being this close to victory. And then just like that, it just slips through your fingers. And so, no, it's been a really high level of competition so far today. I've loved the variety of decks that they've been having here. I've also really loved that they have done so much with not just showing Draven Mirror. I mean, that was the biggest thing. When we went to the first regionals, and I'm pretty sure they understood and heard all of those complaints, every match is Yi versus Kaiser, or Kaiser v Kaiser, or Yi versus Yi. And it's like, yeah, we get it. And so, there goes the Thousand Tail again. Gonna be trying to make a push there. And again, I mean, could still be facing here. Going to be going for a trade. That is going to be, drawing 2 there with Consult the Past. And then things are going to resolve. That is going to be a trade. Still 3 runes at the ready. I mean, gosh, and do you just stack at that point and then pray? But no, it looks like both are going to be going in, trying to take out the Ornn. That is going to be 10 to 6? 10 to 7, sorry. 10 to 6? Yeah, 10 to 7. Words are hard. Is going to be doing the retreat, but if you retreat, that's going to be game, right? No, that's not game. Sorry. I thought that they scored on the other side. Yeah. Oh, man, but being so close. And again, that's going to be the 7th point. Going to be able to draw another card for the 7th point. And I mean, still, you're looking at all of this. And Ornn can just continue to move around. Has a lot of answers, being able to go in. Still will have the wind wall, and I think even one more defy is still in hand. And so there is this Zongazur. Honestly, I think saying it in Chinese would be easier at this point. And so that is going to be a ton moving in. And this, I mean, is going to be the last-ditch effort, I think. Hidden Blade on the own unit. That is going to be going through at this point. Drawing 2. But again, he's only going to be going from 5 to 7 runes. And there's still 4 cards up. 7 to 7 goes down to the number. So I'm going to be very curious to see what is going to be continually responded to here. I don't think the Viktor is going to be having the answer because Guardian Angel's now coming in. That's going to be doing some extra protection on top of that. Again, Zhonya's Hourglass as a gear, as an equipment. It is a gear, but you know what I mean, as an equipment. And then that's going to be a pass. That is a lot of might there, and the climb back is real here for the Ornn player. And I don't think there's anything that can be done here. Gosh, and even having not so fast in hand. So even if you do target the Ornn multiple times, try to play around things, it still will not be enough. So you can try Call of the Week, but you have also no units. Well, you still have, I think, the Bellows Breath with that, but even still, you're targeting with the Bellows Breath. So even Repeat doesn't count as a second spell. It just counts as a repeat of the spell itself. So it's just being done twice. It's not being played twice. Otherwise, it would only be targeting here. So again, going to be going for the bait out here. He is going to let that go through and pull it back. Creating a unit. Yeah, this is becoming such a grind at this point, trying to get that final point. And again, any border in Ornn's hand would immediately be accelerated out for the win, too. So that's going to be something that you're trying to play around, too. But even with 1 rune up, he's saying, you know, I don't know at this point. And so, yeah, that's scary. He's basically saying, I have 1 rune up. What you going to do? Bellows Breath wouldn't do anything at this point. And again, can go into a battlefield, get the draw off the... But still, oh gosh, yep, going in, getting draw. Another not so fast. Now, he's still going to try the Imperial Decree, but... Oh, man, this is going to be a grind. I mean, and rightfully so. Gosh. Still, though, this is looking decent. And there goes another gear out. Gonna immediately equip it. And Ornn's ability is kind of like Teemo's in that example, that it basically covers a power cost to attach an equipment. So just like how Teemo covers, instead of paying power to hide a card, it's just 1 rune. And again, you're playing through a wall of runes. I'm not sure how this could be properly responded to at this point. So a little blip there. Not sure what that was. I love the Poro counters, too. I think I got to get a Poro counter on the way to score points. I absolutely love having that Poro counter. So here we go. Again, though, this is just going to be pushing him back. Do you want the Imperial Decree to go through? The answer is probably not, because if you don't allow that to go through, well, then you pretty much are going to be winning the game. So there is the Wind Wall in this case being saved for another Imperial Decree. That was saved for what? Probably 5 turns now at this point, but still now maybe a Cull of the Week. But he's still, if he has a Defy, that's the scary part. I mean, I think he's played, what, 2 Defies so far? And that is gonna be the game. Wow. So looks like not enough answers there as the Ornn comes from behind and is able to get that win. So anyway, guys, that is going to be the end of our recap. We're going to be having links down to the stream and everything down below for you guys to be able to watch the entire live broadcast. There are still restreams around, but we're going to continue to do recaps of the finals and everything that is going to be coming at you. It is, for those of you who are not watching this too late, it is going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight on Saturday, January 17th. So keep that in mind. If you want to catch it, there are ways to find the links, and there's also going to be a lot of live broadcasts. Again, Runes and Rift and Casanova on Turn 'em Sideways always puts on an absolute banger of a podcast there, and watches it all live. So we'll see how it ends up going. But guys, this is going to be an exciting meta, but who's going to take the top? That is yet to be answered. So let's wait and see. And until next time, guys, have a good one.